Hey, welcome back. In today's Absolute Beginners episode, we're going to go over what makes 3D 3D. That means I'm going to explain to you how a cube, like what we saw yesterday in default Blender, can become something like this background, my desk and toys, or even me. If you already know this stuff, go ahead and skip this video, but if you don't, I promise I'm going to make these principles as easy to understand as possible so that we can get you up in 3D modeling in no time. So how does 3D work, I hear you asking? How can a cube become everything in the scene? Well, 3D is actually pretty simple in its concept. Everything uses points, edges, and polygons. A point being a single point in space, an edge being the distance between 2 points, and a polygon being 3 or more points to make a multi-sided shape. Everything in 3D is made of these multi-sided shapes or polygons. Case in point being this lighthouse scene that I made for a client. This scene is right now full of lighting, textures, and more concepts that we will go over later, but every single object in this scene is just triangles and squares. I will show you. This is without textures on, and if I go one level lower, you can see the geometry that makes up this space. The base for this lighthouse is really just squares. These railings are just pipes, which are also made of squares. Blender, like any other 3D program, lets you adjust the points, the edges, and the faces of an object. And as an example, I'm going to show you with the default cube. Once again, I'm going to hit F to focus on it and just zoom out a bit. Now we're sure it's in our center field of view. And with the industry compatible toolset especially, there are different ways to access these editing modes. Right now, we are in what is called object mode. Object mode simply means you can select an entire object and move it around, rotate it, transform it. But what if you wanted to edit one of these three properties on your object? Well, at the top of your 3D viewport, you can see it says Object Mode. If you click this, a drop-down opens and you see Edit Mode, Sculpt Mode, Vertex Paint, Weight Paint, and Texture Paint. What we want right now is Edit Mode. In Edit Mode, you now see that the whole thing is turned orange. Points, or vertices as some people call them, are visible. So are the edges, and so are the faces, although it doesn't look like anything changed for the faces. Next to Edit Mode, you have Vertex or Point Select, you have Edge Select, and you have Face Select. The difference between these is that Point Select lets you select corners, or individual points on your model. Edge lets you select edges, and Face is to select an entire side. This is the basis for 3D modeling, because once you're at this point, you can now start to modify your object in ways that you didn't have the... Okay. This is the basis of 3D modeling, because now that you're in edit mode and able to adjust these three different things, you can modify your object in ways that you were not capable of doing in object mode. As an example, I'm going to go into edge mode, and I'm going to select this bottom edge, and I'm going to press W, or use the move tool, and I can move this out. And now we've created something that has a slope to it. I can go one further. I'll select this edge up here and hit E for rotate, or select the rotate tool, and I can rotate it like that. This doesn't look like much, but we have now taken a cube and turned it into a new shape. For things that are even more precise, you can do vertex mode. I'm going to go back to my move tool, hit W, or press move in the toolbar, and I can move this back. Now our object is, well, it's certainly unique, but more importantly, it's no longer just a basic cube. You can also do things like select a face, and resize it. So now it's definitely not a cube. Let's actually make that smaller. I'm not sure what the shape is, but it's different. To get into edit mode in Blender, not only can you click the drop down and go from object to edit, but because of the industry compatible key set that we used in the first tutorial, you can actually hit 1 for vertex mode, 2 for edge mode, and 3 for face mode on your keyboard. This makes editing very quick. Once again, that is 1 for vertex mode, 2 for edge mode, and 3 for face mode. If you hit 4, it returns you back to object mode, which is where you can select the entire thing and move it around. Once again, 1 vertex, 2 edge, 3 face, and 4 is object mode. There are more modes built into the keys in your home row number pad, but we're not going to do those right now. The important things to remember are 1, 2, 3, and then 4 to return back to object mode. Also, like any other program, Control-Z is your friend. You can undo things whenever you want, and I think by default Blender has 256 undo steps built in. So those are the basics of 3D. That's how everything in a 3D world is put together in what we call a polygon mesh. Next time, I'm going to show you some more advanced concepts, such as extruding and adding geometry and adding edges to turn something like a cube into a multi-face object like a chair. Thanks for watching. I'm Drake. I make things. This has been Drake Makes.